It's a place of dreams, hopes, and riches, and its streets are filled with the studios, homes, and landmarks that are monuments to its greatness. Let's go Hollywood backstage and see this unique and fascinating place called Hollywood.
Which Hollywood legend from the Golden Age is still making headlines in their 90s, and which ones chose a quieter life away from the spotlight? From Eva Marie Saint turning 101, to Shirley MacLaine still cracking jokes, to Kim Novak re-emerging with a Lifetime Award after decades of silence. These stars prove that fame takes many different paths. Some remain center stage, others have taken their final bow, yet all left an unforgettable mark. So, whose story holds a twist you'd never see coming? Let's find out. 1. Eva Marie Saint. Her story begins in the early 1950s when Hollywood was still ruled by the big studios and stars were carefully shaped for the screen. She didn't come from a glamorous background or a powerful Hollywood family. Yet within her very first major role, she left an unforgettable mark. In 1954, she starred opposite Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront. Her performance was raw, natural, and moving enough to win her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. That single role announced her arrival in a way most actors could only dream of. Just a few years later, Alfred Hitchcock cast her in North by Northwest, alongside Cary Grant. That film gave her another piece of cinematic immortality. She became the elegant, sharp-witted woman tangled in a story of spies, mistaken identities, and iconic set pieces. Between Brando's intensity and Hitchcock's precision, Eva Marie Saint became woven into the very fabric of what people still think of as the Golden Age of Hollywood. Her career was never about playing dozens of roles every year. She chose carefully, balancing film with family and staying away from the chaos that consumed many of her peers. Over the decades, she worked with directors like Elia Kazan, Fred Zinnemann, and Frank Darabont, always bringing a calm, understated strength to her characters. Even as the studio system collapsed and new waves of filmmaking took over, she remained respected and steady. What makes her story even more remarkable is her longevity. While many of her colleagues faded away, Eva kept going. She moved between film and television, lending her talent to projects well into the 2000s. She voiced a character in The Legend of Korra, proving that even in animation her work reached new generations. She never leaned on scandals or reinvention to stay relevant. Her quiet professionalism did that for her. In 2014, she walked out onto the stage at the Academy Awards to present. At nearly 90 years old, she charmed the audience with her humor and poise, reminding everyone that true stardom doesn't fade with age. And then came a milestone few in Hollywood ever see. In 2024, she celebrated her 100th birthday. By 2025, she turned 101, making her one of the oldest living Oscar winners and a living bridge back to a time when Brando, Grant, and Hitchcock were still at the center of cinema. 2. Kim Novak. In the 1950s, Hollywood was always on the hunt for its next great star, and for a time Kim Novak carried that mantle. She signed with Columbia Pictures in 1953, where studio head Harry Cohn was determined to mold her into the studio's answer to Marilyn Monroe. Novak, however, never wanted to be anyone's replacement. She wanted to be known for her own work, and her screen presence quickly proved she was more than just a marketing idea. Her breakthrough came in 1955 with Picnic, where she played Madge Owens, a role that highlighted both her beauty and her ability to portray longing and vulnerability. The film was a commercial success and made Novak one of the most in-demand actresses in Hollywood. A string of major roles followed, including Pal Joey with Frank Sinatra and Belle, Book and Candle alongside James Stewart. The role that defined her career arrived in 1958 when Alfred Hitchcock cast her in Vertigo. The film wasn't an immediate hit upon release, but over time it became recognized as one of the greatest movies ever made. Novak's layered performance as Judy Barton, caught in a tragic web of obsession and identity, remains one of the most haunting portrayals in cinema history. Decades later, critics continue to study her work in that film as an example of complexity and subtle power. Despite her success, Novak never fully embraced the Hollywood lifestyle. She disliked the rigid control of the studio system, the pressure to conform, and the lack of freedom in shaping her own path. By the late 1960s, she began stepping away from the industry. She chose a quieter life in Oregon, dedicating her time to painting and raising horses. For her, creative expression didn't need to be tied only to the camera. Although she distanced herself from acting, Novak never disappeared entirely. She made occasional film and television appearances over the years, and each time she returned, audiences were reminded of her talent. Still, she valued her privacy and resisted the pull to become part of Hollywood's constant spotlight. In recent years, her legacy has been re-examined with a sense of appreciation that perhaps escaped her during her prime. In 2025, she was awarded the Golden Lion for Lifetime Achievement at the Venice Film Festival, a recognition that celebrated not just her film work, but also her courage in choosing her own life path. Alongside this honor, a documentary titled Kim Novak's Vertigo revisited her story, giving audiences a deeper look at the woman behind the roles. 3. Rita Moreno. Born in Puerto Rico in 1931, she moved to New York City as a child and started performing on stage at an early age. By her teenage years, she was already lending her voice to Spanish-language versions of American films. Her big break came in the early 1950s when she caught Hollywood's attention and was cast in supporting roles across a variety of productions. The turning point of her career arrived in 1961 with West Side Story. Playing Anita, she delivered a fiery, unforgettable performance that earned her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. That win was historic. She became the first Latina actress to win an Oscar. At just 30 years old, Moreno had secured her place in film history. Yet, what followed wasn't the smooth path many expected. She faced typecasting and a lack of meaningful roles, a challenge that reflected the limited opportunities available to Latina performers at the time. Instead of fading away, she pushed forward. Over the next decades, she built one of the most remarkable resumes in entertainment. She became one of the very few performers to achieve EGOT status, winning an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. From dramatic roles to musical performances to television guest spots, she showed a range that few could match. Her appearances on shows like The Electric Company and her Tony-winning role in The Ritz displayed her versatility, while her Emmy Awards came from guest spots on The Muppet Show and The Rockford Files. Even as the years went on, Rita never stopped working. She continued acting on television and film, becoming a familiar face to multiple generations. Younger audiences knew her from roles in Oz and Jane the Virgin, while longtime fans celebrated her performances in theater and film. In 2021, she returned to the world of West Side Story, appearing in Steven Spielberg's reimagining of the classic musical, bridging her legacy with a new era of filmmaking. Her career longevity has been matched by her outspoken voice. She has often addressed the discrimination she faced and has been a strong advocate for diversity and representation in Hollywood. While her journey was marked by struggles, she transformed those barriers into a platform, inspiring countless performers who came after her. Now, in her 90s, Rita Moreno remains active. She appeared in the comedy film 80 for Brady in 2023, sharing the screen with Jane Fonda, Lily Tomlin, and Sally Field. She continues to make public appearances, give interviews, and share her sharp humor and wisdom. 4. Joanne Woodward. Joanne stepped into Hollywood at a time when roles for women were often limited to glamour and charm. She broke through that mold in 1957 with The Three Faces of Eve where she played a woman with multiple personalities. The performance was striking, and it earned her the Academy Award for Best Actress. At only 27 years old, she became one of the youngest winners of the award, proving she had the skill to handle complex characters right from the start of her career. Her early success could have easily been overshadowed by the presence of another rising star, Paul Newman. The two met while working on Broadway and later starred together in films like The Long, Hot Summer. Their marriage in 1958 became one of Hollywood's rare, long-lasting unions. Rather than being known only as Newman's wife, Woodward built her own body of work while also balancing her family life. She acted in dramas such as Rachel, a film Newman directed and produced for her, which received critical acclaim and several Oscar nominations. What set Joanne apart was her willingness to take on roles that felt grounded and real. While many actresses of her time were chasing glamorous leads, she was drawn to characters who reflected everyday struggles. This choice made her one of the most respected performers of her generation. She didn't need a constant stream of blockbuster films to maintain her reputation. Her selective choices spoke louder. In addition to her acting career, she invested deeply in her partnership with Newman, both personally and professionally. Together, they worked on numerous films, building a creative legacy as one of Hollywood's most admired couples. Off-screen, they dedicated time and resources to philanthropy. Their charitable foundation and support for the arts became another dimension of their shared life story, further cementing their impact beyond the silver screen. As the years went on, Woodward transitioned into television, where she delivered powerful performances in TV movies that earned her several Emmy Awards. She proved that her talent wasn't confined to the big screen and that her versatility carried across different formats. By the 1990s, she had taken on fewer roles but remained highly respected, both by audiences and her peers. In her later life, Joanne faced health challenges, including Alzheimer's disease, which gradually moved her out of the public eye. Even though she has stepped away from acting, her influence continues. Her career choices helped pave the way for more serious roles for women, and her dedication to family and philanthropy made her an example of how to navigate Hollywood with integrity. 5. Julie Andrews. As a teenager in post-war Britain, she stunned audiences with a singing voice that soared with clarity and strength. By the early 1950s, she was already a star in London's West End, and soon after she conquered Broadway with roles in My Fair Lady and Camelot. Her talent wasn't only about her remarkable vocal range, it was also her grace and charm that made audiences fall in love with her. Her leap into film came in 1964 with Mary Poppins. Playing the magical nanny, Andrews brought warmth and humor to the role, earning her an Academy Award for Best Actress. It was a debut that instantly made her a household name around the world. Only a year later, she cemented her place in history with The Sound of Music. The image of her as Maria, twirling through the Austrian hills, became one of the defining visuals of cinema. Few actors in history have had such a powerful one-two punch at the start of their film careers. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Andrews remained a leading lady, starring in musicals, comedies, and dramas. Films like Thoroughly Modern Millie and Victor Saw Victoria showed her versatility. She wasn't locked into one type of role. She could carry a sweeping musical or shine in a witty comedy. Her reputation extended far beyond her acting. For many, her singing voice became the gold standard, pure, strong, and instantly recognizable. Her journey took a difficult turn in the late 1990s when she underwent vocal cord surgery. The operation left her unable to sing in the same way that had defined much of her career. For someone whose voice was celebrated as one of the finest of the century, it was a devastating change. Yet, Andrews found ways to adapt. she turned her focus to narration, writing, and acting roles that didn't require her to sing. She also embraced new generations of fans. In the early 2000s, she charmed audiences again as Queen Clarice Rinaldi in the Princess Diaries films. Younger viewers who hadn't grown up with Mary Poppins or The Sound of Music discovered her as their regal grandmother figure. More recently, her voice guided millions through Netflix's hit series Bridgerton, where she narrates as the mysterious Lady Whistledown. Off-screen, Andrews has also become a successful author, co-writing children's books with her daughter. She has shared her life story in memoirs, offering candid reflections on her career, her challenges, and her triumphs. Now, in her late 80s, she continues to be celebrated worldwide. Her story is not only about the brilliance of her early career, but also about resilience in the face of loss. 6. Sophia Loren. Her rise began in post-war Italy, where she entered beauty pageants as a teenager before turning to acting. By the early 1950s, she was already appearing in Italian films, often cast in roles that highlighted her striking looks and strong presence. What quickly became clear, however, was that Loren's appeal went beyond appearances. She carried herself with a natural charisma that translated across cultures, setting the stage for her transition to international stardom. Hollywood took notice, and soon she was cast alongside leading men like Cary Grant, Clark Gable, and Frank Sinatra. Unlike many European imports who struggled to adapt, Loren thrived. Her performances showed depth and emotion, establishing her as more than just a glamorous addition to the screen. The defining moment came in 1960 with Two Women, directed by Vittorio De Sica. In that film, Loren played a mother trying to protect her daughter in war-torn Italy. The performance was raw, powerful, and deeply human, earning her the Academy Award for Best Actress, the first given to a performer in a foreign language role. That milestone cemented her reputation as a serious actress. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Loren balanced Hollywood projects with Italian cinema. She appeared in comedies, dramas, and romances, holding her own against the biggest names of the era. At a time when international stars were often treated as novelties, she built a career defined by both artistic achievement and box office appeal. Her life story was also closely followed outside of her films. Her partnership with producer Carlo Ponti, whom she later married, was a subject of constant fascination. Their relationship endured for decades until his passing in 2007, providing stability amid the turbulence of celebrity life. Loren often credited him with helping her navigate the complexities of Hollywood while maintaining her connection to her roots in Italy. Even as trends in cinema shifted, Loren remained relevant. She took on fewer roles as the years went by, yet whenever she returned to the screen, it carried weight. In 2020, she starred in The Life Ahead, directed by her son Eduardo Ponti. Her performance as Madame Rosa, a Holocaust survivor who cares for the children of sex workers, drew widespread praise and showed that even in her mid-80s, her ability to captivate audiences had not diminished. The film earned her international recognition once again, including awards and nominations that introduced her to a younger generation of viewers. Now in her 90s, she continues to be honored worldwide as one of cinema's most enduring icons. 7. Dick Van Dyke. His big break came with The Dick Van Dyke Show, which ran from 1961 to 1966. Playing Rob Petrie, a comedy writer juggling his career and family life, he brought a mix of sharp timing, physical humor, and everyday charm that made the show a classic. It set a standard for sitcoms and remains one of the most influential television series ever made. Hollywood quickly recognized his versatility, and soon he was starring in films. In 1964, he enchanted audiences as Bert in Disney's Mary Poppins, where his singing, dancing, and boundless energy helped turn the film into a cultural landmark. A few years later came Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, another family favorite that cemented his reputation as a star who could light up the screen with warmth and joy. Unlike many performers tied to one era, Van Dyke found ways to stay relevant across the decades. He continued working in television, film, and theater, often reinventing himself for new audiences. He appeared in dramas, comedies, and even guest-starred in shows far beyond his sitcom roots. Generations who didn't grow up with The Dick Van Dyke Show came to know him from later projects, making him a rare entertainer who bridged multiple eras of pop culture. What sets his story apart is his ability to keep going well into his later years. Even as he grew older, he never stopped performing. In 2018, at the age of 92, he returned to the screen in Mary Poppins Returns, thrilling audiences with a lively cameo that proved his spirit had never dimmed. His dancing in that role became a highlight of the film and a reminder of the magic he had brought to the original decades earlier. In 2024, Van Dyke became the oldest actor ever to win a Daytime Emmy Award, honored for his guest appearance on Days of Our Lives. At 98 years old, he showed the world that creativity and joy don't fade with time. Even now, he remains active, making public appearances, giving interviews, and staying connected with his fans. His energy and optimism continue to inspire people of all ages. 8. Patricia Crowley. Born in Pennsylvania in 1933, she found her way to Hollywood in the early 1950s, where she quickly began landing roles in comedies and dramas. She worked steadily during a time when the studio system was shifting and television was beginning to reshape entertainment. Her early film credits included appearances in Forever Female with Ginger Rogers and William Holden, as well as Please Don't Eat the Daisies, which gave her a chance to show off her charm and comedic timing. She wasn't the type of star who relied on flash or controversy. Instead, she built a reputation as a reliable actress who could handle both light comedy and heartfelt drama. It was on television, though, that Crowley really carved out her legacy. She starred in the NBC sitcom Please Don't Eat the Daisies in the mid-1960s, based on the best-selling book and popular film of the same name. Playing Joan Nash, she became a household name, representing the modern TV mother figure who balanced wit, warmth, and patience. Later, she appeared in countless guest spots across television. From Murder, she wrote to The Rockford Files, to Law and Order. For decades, her presence gave shows a sense of familiarity and quality. What made Patricia Crowley stand out was her consistency. She wasn't chasing celebrity headlines or trying to reinvent herself every decade. She simply worked, moving from one role to the next, leaving behind a trail of performances that stretched across generations of viewers. Whether someone remembered her from a 1950s comedy, a 1960s sitcom, or a 1990s procedural, she always felt like part of the fabric of American television. Crowley's contributions didn't go unnoticed by her peers. She won a Golden Globe Award and earned the respect of colleagues who admired her professionalism. She may not have been the flashiest star of the Golden Age, but she embodied the kind of dependable performer who helped shape the industry behind the scenes of bigger names. In 2025, Patricia Crowley passed away at the age of 91. Her death marked the end of a long and steady career that had quietly touched millions. Tributes remembered her not just for her roles, but also for her kindness and grace. Unlike some stars whose fame was tied to a single defining performance, Crowley's career was defined by its range and her ability to adapt to the changing landscape of film and television. 9. Mitzi Gaynor. Born in 1931, she grew up in Chicago and began performing as a teenager, quickly finding herself in the world of musicals. By the early 1950s, Hollywood had taken notice, and she was signed to 20th Century Fox, where she joined the studio's roster of rising stars. Her breakout came with musicals such as There's No Business, Like Show Business and Anything Goes, where her combination of strong vocals, lively dance routines, and a natural screen presence made her a standout. Mitzi Gaynor had the unique ability to carry the rhythm and energy of Broadway into Hollywood films, creating performances that were both dazzling and approachable. The role that defined her career came in 1958 with Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific. Playing Ensign Nellie Forbush, she anchored one of the decade's biggest musicals. The film was a massive success, introducing her to audiences worldwide. Her performance of songs like I'm Gonna Wash That Man Right Out of My Hair became iconic moments in musical cinema. For many, Gaynor's name would forever be linked to the golden era of Hollywood musicals. As Hollywood began to shift away from lavish musicals in the 1960s, Gaynor smoothly transitioned to television and stage work. She became known for her annual television specials throughout the 1960s and 1970s, which showcased her singing and dancing talents. These specials earned her Emmy nominations and helped her remain a household name even as the film industry moved in new directions. Beyond television, Gaynor embraced live performances. She toured internationally, performed in concerts, and built a second career as a stage entertainer long after her film days slowed down. Her dedication to her craft meant that audiences across the world could continue enjoying her artistry long after the golden age of musicals had passed. Mitzi Gaynor's long career was also marked by her professionalism and charm. She became one of those rare performers who seemed at home in every medium: film, television, and stage. She represented an era when musicals weren't just entertainment, but cultural events, and she carried that legacy with her for decades. In 2024, Mitzi Gaynor passed away at the age of 93. Her death was noted as the loss of one of the last living connections to Hollywood's great musical era. Tributes highlighted her unforgettable performance in South Pacific and her years of television specials that brought joy into American living rooms. 10. Shirley MacLaine. In the mid-1950s, a young dancer-turned-actress named Shirley MacLaine caught Hollywood by surprise. She had been working as a chorus girl on Broadway when fate intervened. During a performance of The Pajama Game, the lead dancer broke her ankle, and Shirley, still an understudy, was suddenly thrust into the spotlight. That break led to a film contract, and within months, she was working with Alfred Hitchcock in The Trouble with Harry. Her talent didn't take long to shine. By 1960, she starred in The Apartment alongside Jack Lemmon, delivering one of the most memorable performances of the era. Critics loved her natural style. She didn't rely on glamour or melodrama, instead bringing wit, honesty, and emotion to the screen. She quickly became one of the most recognizable stars of the 1960s, with roles in Irma la Douce and Sweet Charity. Shirley MacLaine also developed a reputation as one of the boldest voices in Hollywood. While many actresses of her era were expected to stay silent off-screen, Shirley spoke openly. She questioned the industry, stood up for herself in contract negotiations, and embraced topics that few others dared to. Her interest in spirituality, reincarnation, and the mysteries of life made her a target of jokes, yet it also set her apart as a fearless individual unafraid to live on her own terms. The 1980s brought one of the highlights of her career with Terms of Endearment. Playing Aurora Greenway, a mother whose love was as fierce as it was complicated, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress in 1984. It was the crowning moment of a career that had already spanned decades, and it proved her range stretched far beyond the light comedies she started with. What makes Shirley's journey remarkable is her energy across every stage of her life. While many of her contemporaries stepped away from acting as they aged, she stayed present. She continued acting in both film and television, appeared in shows, and even took roles in quirky comedies and smaller dramas in the 2000s. She always kept challenging herself with new projects. Outside of acting, she became a best-selling author. Her books on spirituality and her personal experiences gave her another platform and built an audience beyond moviegoers. Whether people agreed with her beliefs or not, they couldn't deny her influence. She has lived openly, laughed loudly, and embraced life fully. Qualities that made her just as interesting off-screen as she was on-screen. Now in her 90s, Shirley MacLaine remains active. She appears at events, continues to write, and has a sense of humor that has never faded. Her story is one of constant reinvention, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. And that's it. Now to you, if you could step back in time and spend one day on set with any of these Golden Age stars at the height of their careers, who would you choose and why? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more amazing videos like this one.